Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to help you find your best, most true, authentic business voice. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, meet the person of your dream, make billions of dollars. Not certain that I can guarantee you those last two, but we're working really hard on those. But the other ones, yeah, hell, we'll help you find your most authentic voice. That's the whole point of this. Thanks for continuing to join us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartMedia, everywhere you get your podcasts, and YouTube as well, too. And the reason I believe we get people to get to do those things is I get to bring people on who actually walk the walk in regards to that arc of authenticity. And today's episode is no different, folks. I get to introduce my buddy, Dr. Josh Handt. Welcome to the show, man.
Man, I'm excited to be here, John. That voice, man, you have like the most amazing voice. I think I probably even said that a couple of years ago when we met for the first time. So I'm really stoked to be here. Glad to contribute to your tribe because, you know, authenticity is the name of the game in this world these days.
As I keep finding, and folks, we've had the distinct pleasure of knowing each other from our run. And for those watching on YouTube, you're seeing our guest model. There you go. The Penguin Movement for Recovery. So this is how it sometimes it just helps to show up. So last year, 2020, well, so 2022, depending on when you're listening to this, right? So 2022, I'm a fan of a mutual fan and friend of ours, Charlie Engle, the running man, literally. And I had talked to him on Zoom and interviewed him on this show. And there's this event, the Penguin Movement for Recovery, sponsored by the Ashley Treatment Centers in Havre de Grace, Maryland. And it was, and I read it and I swore I thought it was some typo, that it last year, the first time, 30 hours of continuous movement. I'm like, okay, no. But I'll show up and cheerlead, and showed up I did, and I get to meet Dr. Josh. What got you to show to the first event? What got you there?
I'll give you the short version.
Any is good.
We go ahead, podcast on that to answer. No, I'm just kidding.
That's so, right.
I bought this new treadmill at my house. It was the winter. It was cool. I run ultra marathons. So I bought this human powered treadmill, and I'm looking for an audiobook on my phone to listen to. And I listened to like almost 100 books in 2020, maybe a little bit more actually. So I'm looking. I thought I listened to every running book known to man. Found this book called The Running Man. I'm like, all right, download. Plug it in. I run a marathon on my treadmill. And as I'm going through this thing, I'm thinking to myself, holy cow, I need to message this guy on social media. The chances of him responding are probably slim to none, but I want to talk to him on my podcast, right? So I send him a message. Minutes later, it's like, cool, man. What time? Yeah, okay. And
how about that?
So Charlie responded almost instantaneously. And on the show, he goes, out of the blue, hey, I'm doing this event. What it was, a couple months, whatever it was, I don't even remember. I'm doing this event in Havre de Grace, Maryland. It's a 30-hour ultra marathon. I want to invite you as a guest. I go, okay, sure, yeah. What am I going to say? No on my podcast, right? No. So yeah, that was it. So we hit it off and became buddies and back and forth. And obviously, you probably had a very similar story. And it's been history, right? All the people we got to meet were out of this world, and I know you've had a few on the show as well.
Yeah, I feel bad that you could have been, like I said, you were one of the coolest people I ever met, and as it make you wait this long. But this is the thing of the randomness and maybe the not randomness. So yeah, I'm very not quite similar. I hadn't run every running book known to man, but Charlie guested on somebody's morning program that a real estate colleague was doing. had a guest, and I was showing up to support my friend, a Zoom call that I was supporting my friend who was running this program. I'm like, fine. Oh, and today's guest is, and Charlie starts to tell his story.
Yeah.
And Charlie, if you're listening, God bless you, man. I honest to God, as I said, I'll get to the power of all of that in a second. But it was like, I don't know him from a can of paint, but he's talking about the book. So I ordered the book, and then I shot him an email. Hey, I just ordered your book and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And like you when you were on whatever. He autographs the book, sends it to me. We realized we have a couple of things in common. It wasn't the ultra route. For me, it was recovery. And so he was using some of the words that I was calling like buzzwords, right? Or think like a dog whistle. Yeah. He was sharing certain words, and I'm like, oh, that sounds familiar. And then I found out I was right. And then through all of that, I see this, and same event, Havre de Grace, Maryland, show up. Josh, when you went there, did you intend to go the ultra route right away? Like in your mind, you're like, this is how it's going to go. Oh, this is great. I'm going ultra.
Yeah. I'd run many ultras before, and Charlie goes, well, this is just going to be another one to put in your books. Even though it's not a race, you're going to move for 30 hours. I said, sure, I'm in. Count me in. I'll be there, and I'll suffer with you.
So, folks, among other things that our guest is known for, two of them happen to be podcasts that Dr. Josh has hosted, Lifestyle Locker, and also the Human Powered Life. And fitness and ultra, if you spend 5 minutes with the good doctor, it is no surprise. I love that was your answer. It so wasn't mine, and nobody was surprised. And as a matter of fact, I think you were one of the crew that I saw Sunday morning. So I go home. I'm there. I was there way longer than I planned. I thought it was a colossal success on my part. But when it got dark, I started getting weird. Like the first night, I'm like, okay, I don't want to fall and break a hip like some elderly man. So I literally do an Irish goodbye and go home. And I remember the next day, there's a group of people. I come tooling in my car. I think I convertible top down, and I come tooling in, and I see a group of people. Dr. Josh is one of them, of which I was accused, folks, called he smells like soap. I can't remember.
He smelled too clean.
That's what it was. So aside from the fact that I'm still damn proud of my good hygiene, that I could not get over the bonding part. You just said it a couple of minutes ago, and I love that. Hey, this is not a traditional ultra marathon. It's technically not a race. Before I ask you about the connection part, I will ask you this. Is it easier or harder when it's not a race for you as an ultra runner?
No, I'll tell you, I'm not the fastest runner in the world by any means. I've never won an ultra. I've come in top 10, top 20, top 5. I actually came in second place in one, but I've never come in first place. So my competitive mindset is there all the time, even in the ones that are not like the Penguin. But no, I think the most amazing thing, and you're touching on this, is the connections you get to meet, or the connections you get to create during doing something incredibly hard. And I say, like, those who suffered together will probably have the longest relationships in the world, because you've done something that most people do not do. So I think military and fire and police, these guys that go and gals that go through all of this hard stuff together, that's why they call them brothers or sisters, right? Like that's, I truly believe why.
I feel like that's so on point. I remember one of the coolest things I remember about that experience. You were part of a group, a large group of people, but there was a certain core group of people that year, and then repeating this this past year, 2023, that I just felt tighter with than others, and that's just sometimes just how it goes. Maybe not necessarily playing, and you were one of them. And here's one of the things that I recall. You just talked about that you go through things that other people don't. And one of those things was, I remember people downloading really personal things about themselves. And forgive me for laughing, but it's like, I don't consider myself, look, this whole purpose of the show, the art to authenticity, and it matters to me because I had difficulty in my life doing it in years gone by. But I don't know of anything where people began with really heavy personal parts of their story upon hello.
Yeah.
You feel comfortable right away with the group. How are you like that normally?
That's me. I'm a weird, I think the term is called omnivert. I like being by myself. I can go and run for 20 miles by myself and be very happy.
Right.
But when I'm in the crowd of people that like what I like, I like being, for lack of a better word, I like being that center of attention. I like being interactive with everybody. And I love seeing people push themselves. I like seeing people succeed. So in my daily life as a chiropractor, as someone that just loves people, it's not hard for me. As weird as that sounds, I just love encouraging people just to be their best version of themselves. And it's exciting. And I can go deep. People ask me stuff. I tell them, like I told you pre-show, I'm an open book. Be careful what you ask me because I will probably answer it true.
Good. But that's the whole point of the show. So as you talk, as a chiropractor, you come from a chiropractic family. How did that work in terms of you making the choice? Oh, me too. I'm going to, you know what I mean? How does that work?
So it's actually, and again, it's a long story that I'll keep short. And sometimes I mix up the timeline a little bit. So I apologize if anybody's listened to any of my old shows. I was a marketing major in college. Actually, pre that, I was a competitive skier. So a scholarship athlete, injured, not in a car accident, not by skiing, transferred from a school in Vermont, moved back to New York, live with my family, and I'm at a community college, and then I go to Pace University. I got to figure out what I want to do. Ultimately is what it comes down to. So in my journey of learning, I decided, hey, marketing is cool. I wasn't really good at numbers. I really wasn't good at memorizing things, but marketing was very creative. And that's just the way my brain works. I love thinking. I love going, I wonder what that would be like, or wonder what would that, and why do people buy certain things? Like that really interested me. So I went down this rabbit hole and got a major in marketing. But in that journey, I'm at an internship at Sony Pictures in Midtown. It's an old Sony building. I don't think it's theirs anymore. I have a private office. I think it's like the 12th or the 16th floor. I'm 19 or 20 years old at the time. And I have a private suite. I have 2 computers. Those are the monitors that were like 3 feet thick at the time. You remember those?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my God. Oh, right. Like the old console televisions.
Exactly. Right. Not what we're both using right now. So I'm sitting in my office, staring out the windows, wondering, am I going to be like the boss I'm working for? It's a wonderful woman, but her glasses are like 3 feet thick, like Coke bottles. And am I going to be sitting in the same seat in the same office? My purpose just felt totally not there. Like, this is not what I'm designed or destined to do. During that summer, I took an anatomy and physiology class at the community college close to my house. And thank God for that teacher. I really wish I remembered her name. It was probably the best college professor I ever had. And it made my anatomy so amazing. And I said, holy cow, what the hell have I been doing my whole college career? My dad always told me to take science classes. He goes, just in case you ever want to become a chiropractor, but no pressure. So I had to go backwards, and I took all my science classes over the course of a summer, and the advisors told me, you're going to fail everything. And I said, no, I won't. Like, I was a man on a mission. And I took organic chemistry and chemistry and physics, all these things practically at the same time in a 4-week in summer semesters, which are stacked. So it was like 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. of classes. And I come out, going straight to chiropractic college. And when I told my parents, I didn't tell them I was applying. I thought my dad was going to have a heart attack and just fall on the floor. Both of them were like, wait, what? You're going where? You're moving to Florida? What? And that was, graduated chiropractic school in 2006. So it's been some time.
I love every bit of that story. 2 questions. First off, it's fine. The name of the teacher, that's fine. But I'm curious, what do you think it was in the way that she conveyed the information that made it so memorable for you?
So it didn't feel like she was attempting to teach. She was so happy in it. Like she was teaching, obviously she
Right.
enjoyed what she did.
Okay.
And it was very, like energetic, like you felt that she really loved what she was doing. And it was easy to pay attention. It was easy to be engaged. And if, you like raise your hand and say, oh, it's the vagus nerve, she would be like, you're wrong. Next, she would go, well, why do you think that? What's going on? And brought you back in to make you think again, which was great. Where traditional classes, science classes, are sometimes very cut and dry. Like my chemistry and organic chemistry, I'd rather stab myself in the foot type of thing. Right. This was just so engaging, and that sold me on science right away.
Wow. I'm still blown away by the fact that you pulled that off. I took 2 summer semester courses in my endless quest for a 4-year college degree, of floundering through 3 attempts at Villanova University. And I just remember that was the closest that I felt like I've come to tightrope walking, was getting through the summer courses. So that's the first thing. But the second question I want to ask you was, in regards to the transition, you realize that, okay, competitive skiing is now off the table, or it's out, right? And you're interning at Sony, and then you're interning at Sony, and on the surface, this looks impressive. What was your mindset like in terms of the transition? How did you literally get to a point from there to, oh my God, I love this,
That's a good question. So one piece I did leave out is I got offered a very sweet salary at Sony.
Okay.
Whatever it was, 80,000 at the time in 2001. I don't even remember, to be honest with you.
As an intern?
Not as like to be hired right out of school.
Oh, fine. Because I'm like, okay, that's
graduate and start. No, as an intern, no, whatever. I don't think I made it anything. I don't even remember.
Right.
But the mindset was, once I took that science class, when I realized, like staring out that window, it was probably like a sledgehammer hitting me. But once I took that anatomy class, it was quite amazing that it was almost like a subconscious shift that says, now you know what you are here for. Now you know what you need to do. Okay. And it didn't make a difference how hard the class was. It didn't make a difference if I complained about organic chemistry or physics or statistics. I know that no matter, and my father actually taught me this, is knowing once he found out I was going to be a chiropractor, he goes, you just need to take everything you're learning, chemistry, it doesn't make a difference, and see how you can apply that into the thought process of potentially becoming a chiropractor. Even though I didn't really know the science in chiropractic yet, but I can bring it back to the anatomy and physiology, go, okay, well, chemistry matters in this, or physics matters here, and it all matters, right? In the big scheme of things. So it was an almost like put your head down, and I hate the word hustle, but it was like a really big like charge, like a rhinoceros, like plowing through. It didn't make a difference what BS was in front of me. I was going to finish no matter what. I wasn't giving up. And
so you land at wonderful. So you land in the practice. What was it like in the beginning for you?
Right out of the gate, I tell you, it was a little freaky. I started as an employee working in my dad's practice.
At your family, at the family business.
Yeah. So I started as an employee, but the great thing was I got to do what they call an externship. So I had got all my requirements done a little early, like clinical requirements. It's like medical school, you have to have human to human contact. It's not all.
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah. So I wasn't able to do any what they call adjusting in my father's practice as a student, but I was able to take x-rays. I was able to do all of the things that I needed to do besides the actual hands-on care, to talk to patients, interact, watch how the flow of that worked. But one of the best things was early on, before I actually had my New York State license, I just had graduated. You have to apply for a licensure. And what I did, they had street fairs. It was in the summer.
Okay.
So I did a street fair in New York City when they were really a popular thing. And I was able to attract 18 people to show up into the practice as new patients before I even had my license, which was like, okay, I think I can do this thing. This is really cool. And to this day, I still have some of those patients almost 18 years later, which is, amazing. They got the big message, the picture. And it's all about relationships in our practice. And I think that's just my human nature, and the human nature of chiropractic is you're not looking to find something to take out of someone's life, but it's a problem. You're looking how to add more life to their life. So it's always an exciting thing. And can it be frustrating business wise? Sure. But it was a lot of fun right in the beginning. And then there's always ups and downs. You get very comfortable. The practice will go to a lull. And it's like, okay, no, I got to do what I've been trained myself and working with other coaches and mentors. There's always ebbs and flows in life and in practice for me.
I love that.
Even the past 3 years for us was one of the biggest shockers, the biggest lulls I've ever had in practice, but it also made very thick skin.
So I want to ask you, in terms of that specifically, first off, you alluded to the big message back then early on.
Yeah.
What was the big message?
So that, and I'll keep this simple. So the simple message in chiropractic, we
really dumb it down for me.
No.
The listeners, they'll be fine.
No, it's true. Like I talk to people every day about this.
Right.
But it's understanding that your body was made with everything it needs to. It just needs no interference in the way it actually communicates with itself. There's a saying, it says above, down, inside out, and that's the way we heal in chiropractic. And that's really the big message. But to keep it scientific and simple is we know that our brain is the main functioning organ in the whole body, the brain, spinal cord, central nervous system that controls every single cell function that we know about. So if that communication pathway between the brain, the body, and the tissue cell and organ, muscle, all those things are actually talking back and forth, you have the best potential to be healthy 100% of the time. And the question I'd ask you, John, is, okay, now we know you have 24 moving bones, you have these 31 pairs of nerves that come out of your spine. Right. When would be the best time for one of those to be functioning under 100%?
Ask me the question again.
Okay.
I should get it, but just ask me again.
No, okay, I will.
I get it.
Ideally, we want to be functioning at 100%, right?
Yeah.
We can agree on that part. Great, beautiful. So, and that's the brain body connection. So, and you have a lot of nerves that go to everything. So we'll just say the nerve in your middle back, T6, the thoracic spine, that goes to your stomach organ. We want that working at 100%, right? You can digest food.
Right.
When is the best time for it to be functioning under 100%? The answer is never.
I was going to say, right. I'm guessing at rest. I'm thinking, no, that would be.
You always want it at 100%, because that means you have the potential for all of those things to be functioning at 100%.
Got it.
So our job as chiropractor, the big idea is that we want you to function at 100%, not necessarily always feel good. Yeah, not always feel good, because you know what? If you catch a flu, your body should heat up. You should feel like garbage. That's your body protecting itself.
Right.
And don't go walk around and feel good because you're numb to what's really going on. You need to get your body needs to elevate itself in heat, right? That's what a fever is about, killing bugs internally that their body doesn't like. So we want you to function well, not just feel well, if that makes sense.
So you get the flu. And this is where it's like, so in terms of, I like that you've said on social media, you've said it on your podcast, you've said it multiple times in regards to the sense, I love being in a chiropractic family. And is this mindset, I'm still calling it a paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Although I'll get to it in a moment, I don't feel it's quite the shift as it used to be. But I will say, is that a family dynamic where, like, I mean, of the people that practice, I don't mean each cousin, but right? I mean, is that consistent in the family practice?
Yeah, I mean, that's consistent with my family, period. My
okay, got it.
My parents, my brother, my sister, my wife, my brother-in-law, my nephews. That's the way we are. Like, we don't waver from that.
Did anyone come around later? Because I feel like that's an amazing percentage that everybody, the family is all in. I get it at the New York Chiropractic Life Center, but to have everybody in that mindset.
Yeah, well, I will tell you. So I started dating my wife, I believe we were 18.
Right. Okay. Got it.
She comes from a traditional, I'll call it allopathic or medical family. Like her parents are medical doctors, but traditional, we'll just say like most of the population. And then she comes and starts hanging out my family. And then we get into chiropractic college. And I mean, she's around my family a lot, going to chiropractic seminars when we're dating. So like, and I'm going as a, not even a chiropractic student time, but through chiropractic college, she's going essentially through school with me. She's got her speech and language pathology degree. She's already working. So she's already got a lot of the science, but now she's seeing it from a very different light. So, you know, she may not have, I don't know when her pivot or shift was in her head, but she grew up in a very traditional household, medical household. But there was a huge pivot, and, you know, she's been, I don't even really remember, to be honest with you, when she made that shift, but it's definitely we'll say the one that had started the latest in our internal group here, our close group family.
I think I asked that question, so for me personally, I remember the first time I shifted, and mine went more toward integrative medicine than chiropractic, right?
Yeah.
The very first time it shifted, it was from a really odd source, but I give this person all the credit in the world for being visionary and getting a ton of pushback. And that person of all people was Suzanne Summers, former Threes Company. And she big into wellness, and her battle was a cancer diagnosis that she refused to go the chemotherapy radiation. She just flat out refused. And she's and did a lot of research and made the call that I'm not going to go the traditional medicine route, and went on this journey from food she ate and the path. I bring it up because she got a ridiculous amount of pushback. Whack job. I mean, you know, Blondo from Three's Company, and what does she know? And my doctor says X and Y. Sound familiar?
Yeah.
So that was probably 15 years ago that I was made aware of what she was doing, let alone, I have no idea when it first came, but it was 15 years ago. So I remember changing the way that I ate. And I'm going to say she was way more right than wrong. I mean, she's as time has gone on, changed the way that she's eaten and kept doing so. But even then, the shifts that she was making, she was way more correct than incorrect. And things evolve. But I feel like she opened eyes. I remember taking it seriously. I remember paying more attention to testosterone-based therapy and all that sort of thing. And that's just me. I'm not saying right, wrong, good, bad. I'm just simply saying I just started to pay closer attention. For you, from a chiropractic, if I heard you correctly with the 24/7, that the time that you don't want it functioning at 100% is never, right?
Yeah.
You're saying at this point that it's no vaccines, no nothing, or
so my history, my personal, well, this can go down a rabbit hole, and I'm okay to go down.
That's okay. Me too.
Rabbit holes.
Me too.
But I'll say this first before I say anything else. Is that I think every human being that can make a choice, an adult, 18 years old and older, should be able to make their own choices. There shouldn't be mandates. There shouldn't be anything forced, right? We live in a very sanitary world right now, especially in the United States. So I was brought up unvaccinated. My siblings are unvaccinated. My nephews are unvaccinated since birth. Okay. Do I think we need them? Me personally? No, but I would never push my agenda. I would say, you can look at my health. We can compare it to someone else's health who may have gone the traditional route. And that's the only way really to know. And I really think that personal choice is probably the most powerful thing. So yeah, I'm about lifestyle. Hence you see that if you guys are watching YouTube, it says Lifestyle Locker, which you mentioned. I think leading a healthy lifestyle is much more powerful than any potion, pill, injection that you can put in your body.
So did you get pushback younger as a family or as individuals when it was like, disclosed? Or, I mean, obviously it's not topic number one at Thanksgiving, who's vaccinated, but I mean, you know what I mean? But did you get pushback then just from that stance?
No, I'll tell you that just, and again, I may screw the story up a little bit. I'm going back to when I was in elementary school here.
Mhm.
So this is in the 80s,
Oh God.
1980s,
Oh, then you're
right?
fine.
Um, so myself, I believe I was in sixth grade.
Mhm.
Then my younger brother and younger sister, we were all in elementary school. We're all
Right.
unvaccinated from everything.
Right.
And there happens to be a measles, the so-called outbreak in the school. The teacher,
Oh, it's you. It was
yeah,
you.
it's me, right? So the three of us don't have anything,
Right.
but they bring us all to the nurse's office
Mhm.
just out of, concern,
Yep.
rightfully so, they're allowed.
Yep.
The nurse calls my mom, Mrs. Handt, your three kids, we know they're unvaccinated. There's a measles outbreak in the
Mhm.
school. Would you like to pick them up and take them home? She goes, hold on 1 second. Can I give you a call back in just a minute? Sure.
Right.
She calls. I
Mhm.
guess her and my father have a conversation. She calls the school nurse back and says, Mrs. Nurse, I have a question for you. The kids in the school currently that have measles, were they vaccinated for it?
Mhm.
Imagine like the silence on the other end of the line.
Yeah.
Right. And she's like, I guess the nurse said, oh, yes, probably, like, would be my guess. And my
Mhm.
mom said, no, they can go back to class. Years ago, I mean, I had a chicken pox. I mean, we had like a chicken pox party when I was a kid. So like all the kids in the neighborhood can get chicken pox. And this is crazy. I spoke to one of my best friends who's now a chiropractor, was an electrician before, but his mom is, how old is she? She's probably in her mid 70s.
Right.
And she said, when I was a kid, we would have measles parties. The same way my generation, when we were kids, had chicken pox parties.
Mhm.
So that's the only push. I never personally got pushback.
Mhm.
I've had pushback once in my practice, and that's okay. Let people, and they no, we don't force anybody to be in our practice.
Right.
And we don't push an agenda, so to say, on
Mhm.
anybody.
Mhm.
But if you don't resonate with us, and that's okay. I want a happy,
Mhm.
healthy, fun, like healing environment. I don't want animosity and anger. So I don't really get pushback anywhere unless someone really wants to get under my skin, and I'll just tell them my peace of mind too.
So, by the way, I'm laughing because it's like, now, obviously, I feel like those theme sort of parties, I might want to work on the theme rather than the. But the rationale is great. I mean, I got it. Like I'm of the age 60s where it's like I remember chickenpox extremely well, and
Yeah.
and typically, if I remember correctly, um, and most of the people on my block growing up had it, if
Mhm.
not everybody, just about the vast majority of young kids all got it. And I think, or at least I'll speak for our block in Northeast Philadelphia, which
Okay.
was we were all isolated. Right.
Yeah.
So as opposed to like what was really smart logic in terms of get everybody together and get it over
Yeah.
with in a couple of days, and then we all go
Yeah.
live our lives, we would just let the outbreak go for a series of years.
Yeah, but I think, I mean, it has to be either familial, it has to be maybe
Mhm.
like our ethnicity, like where we came from and how
Yeah,
we
yeah,
dealt with
yeah.
these things in the
Right,
past. It maybe is how we move forward and deal with them again. And
right.
I wouldn't put a parent at fault for saying, hey, let's have a chicken pox party. Right. I mean, these are all choices.
Well, I
They're,
feel like that it's a free will thing if you go to the party, so why not? You know what I mean? And here's where
yeah.
I've changed. I feel like it's like I think one of the cool things in regards to having conversations that are organic
Mhm.
lead to better understandings. And,
Yeah.
and, and so you said something a little while ago, and I wanted to just question it, which was literally you were saying, and a few years ago, when the practice was, like I said, probably a lot
Mhm.
less populated, and
Mhm.
I'm strongly assuming we're talking about COVID at this point,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Of course.
that time, I mean, look, folks, this is only a few years ago, so it's not like people don't remember, you know,
Mhm.
was at least for me personally, one of the angrier, more combative times
Yeah.
in regards to things that I can remember. Like, I don't personally remember and this is coming from a guy who was closeted and all sorts of things. I don't remember feeling the need to have my guard up as often as I did.
Yeah.
And so I was all for the vaccinations, all for, this is it. And anyone who didn't or wouldn't was a problem in my head back then. And it's like, you're working off of the body takes care of itself if you allow it to. If I dumbing it down, if you simply allow it to and do the right things around it, that it will take care of itself. What was that time like for you as all of this back and forth is going on?
I'm in New York City, right? So I call like Fear City that time.
There you go. Yeah.
And early on, I was like, okay, nobody knows what's going. Nobody knew.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure some people knew, but nobody knew.
Mm-hmm.
And was I worried? I said, no, I take vitamins daily in the fall and the winter. We boost certain vitamins and nutrients to make sure we fight off, because I'm around people every day, even pre-COVID. I'm around people. And I'll tell you this, most people, I'd say almost our whole practice,
mm-hmm.
I don't think people are stupid. People don't come in, oh, doc, I have 103. Nope. Common sense. We've had that since I've been alive, and I'm well before I've been alive. Most people had that common sense. So I came from that point of view, thinking, okay, if I'm healthy, if I'm exercising, I'm eating well, I'm getting adjusted, I'm doing all the things that I know that has kept me healthy my whole life. Why would this be different? So no, I didn't really have that fear model. It didn't burn into my brain, even though, I could walk down Central Park West where our practice was, and it felt like I was in a zombie movie where I wouldn't even get hit by a car. It was bizarre. I'm surprised they didn't film movies at that time in the city, because it was so crazy. But I didn't want to buy into the fear, because I know fear never leads to good decisions. Fear never creates a positive outcome, especially when it becomes chronic fear, like a chronic disease.
Mm-hmm.
And when you create fear, you create anxiety. When you create anxiety, we start to get this perpetual snowball that's going downhill in the wrong direction, right? We don't want that snowball to really be created. And just to give you an example, we sent an email out early on when they shut down New York City.
Right.
Literally, they shut it down. We sent an email out telling all of our practice saying, we will be open. Okay, we're going to be open. We're here for you. Right? We're not here for us. We're here for you. And should you feel comfortable and ready to come out and get adjusted, we'll be here for you. The office is clean. You guys, everybody's been here for a period of time. And for all the new patients, we've been around for almost 45 years. So it's not our first rodeo during a flu season. So we're not a filthy office, right? This is the Upper West Side of New York City.
Right.
And then the first people that came in that Monday, the first, let's say 5 people, I don't really remember. Everybody was over 70 years old, everybody. And they've all been patients some for a decade, some for 4 decades.
Okay.
And I asked all of these patients, I said, why did you come in?
Yeah.
And they said, well, why would we stop doing things that keep us healthy? I'm going to go for walks, because that's what they would do. That was their exercise. I'm going to go for my walks. I'm going to get adjusted. Make sure I drink enough water. And that was almost the answer across the board. I'm like, cool. So you're becoming less vulnerable towards any kind of sickness, so to say. And one of these patients, his name is Richard. We actually wrote we have a little book in our practice, and his stories in our book, and he's in his mid 70s now. And he came in one day during that time, maybe 2021, whatever it was, maybe probably 2020 is my guess.
In 2020, I think March is when things rapidly shut down, like March and April.
So it was within probably a few months of that is my guess. He came in and he walks 6 miles a day. 6 miles a day. He's in his mid 70s. And I'm not wearing a mask. I'm walking outside in nature in Central Park. There's not many people outside. He said people in their teens and 20s would curse him out and yell at him saying he's killing people. And he would ask him, he goes, shouldn't I be the one that's worried? So It's just interesting seeing how that played out. And then my sister lives in Florida, and it was a different world.
Yeah.
So like it became
Yeah.
very politicized, right? Depending on
Yeah.
where you were.
So for me as a big city boy, East Coast, and not, I mean, an hour train
Yeah,
ride
of
from
course.
and that it was like, and I'll speak for me personally, like I
Yeah.
still have questions, meaning I've gotten vaccinated, I've gotten all the boosters, and I've never gotten COVID. And so I don't have a single regret of the choices that I made. I remember though, these are the things that I regret for myself personally, right? I was wildly short-tempered at people. Remember the
Yeah.
people you were saying, the teenagers and blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah?
that
That was
was
me,
common,
but
right?
that was me in reverse. I remember there's a path. So you're talking about Central Park in Philadelphia. There is a river path that now keeps getting expanded. It's great. It's one of my favorite things that has ever been created since I've become a Center City, Philadelphia resident.
Okay.
Is the Schuylkill River Trail, built from nothing, and then it goes like right now, I think it's a 20-mile, and it just
Oh,
keeps
that's
getting
great.
longer and longer, right? And I remember people would come too close to me, and with no mask. Obviously, if you had, and I say obviously in half in jest,
Yeah.
if you had a mask, that was fine, but I still would be like almost ready to physically push people out of the way. I can remember getting into a fight with a guy with his kid. The kid was learning to ride a bike. So I can remember being out of my skull that the kid learning to ride a bike is coming too close to me. So obviously this does not put me in the best possible light, but the fact of the matter was I didn't feel any way other than incensed of what I'm going to say, how I felt, the selfishness of people that were putting us all at risk, all of us. And I went down the rabbit hole. And as I said, I don't question my choices. I'm grateful that I have the vaccine, but it was not based on me doing the scientific data. Where I questioned my like throwing temper tantrums is obviously a terrible choice and made no sense. And secondly, it was the sense of they told me, so I know. One of the things where I feel like I'm changing is this. I brought up the integrative medicine. That was 15 years ago. Easy. Where I stopped with the doctor said, so I therefore will. I was like, beat it with my, I barely see a primary care doctor now. I barely go. And it's like, I challenged and questioned everything. So I now, in my mind, from that 3-year window, am now slowly going back in terms of the sense that it's insane for me to have been like, how dare you? Where it was like for myself, it was like I wasn't doing that for other things, like I said, 15 years prior, And so it's like it was a crazy time for me. I still feel the ramifications. 2022, you and me are together in Maryland. And COVID was still going on, if I remember correctly. It was certainly whining.
Something going on.
Yeah, I understand, including right now, right? But what I was going to say is no one's questioning anybody's judgment, medical proficiency, good taste, bad taste, good person, bad person. And I feel like one of the best payoffs of that was those conversations that we had we didn't begin with, do you wear a mask? Are you vaccinated? And if your answer is yes or no, then I would fill in all the holes that therefore you must be.
Exactly.
Let me ask you on another note. Why is it the spine controls everything?
The spine does not.
Okay, then.
The spine does not. The spine. So I'll take a step back to
do it for me, please.
So the skull and the spinal column are the only two bony structures that completely surround an organ.
Okay.
Our brain and our spinal cord, right? These soft ribs on front.
Right.
God forbid I fall on a corner of my desk. No problem. I'm going to break one of those things. It's going to be easy peasy. And what's inside there? Heart, lungs, everything. So the hierarchy of importance is our brain, spinal cord, right?
Spinal cord.
That's why we're designed that way.
Yes.
So, and you have 24 of these bones that are stacked on top of each other with discs in between, except for a few that don't. There are a couple that don't. And there's 31 pairs of nerves that come out in between all of those, all the way from your base of your skull to your tailbone.
Right.
Not including what we call cranial nerves. So when those bones are functioning healthy and moving the right way, we have optimal function. Right? We talked about that 100% function earlier.
Exactly.
Right. So when those bones shift out of alignment, I'm not talking about an inch or like a Christopher Reeve breaking a neck and moving it 20 plus millimeters. We're talking little bits that causes dysfunction. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we call it a subluxation. It's a very small shift out of alignment, which and I shouldn't say it's crazy. I understand the science, but we think these things should be painful. Only 10% of all the nerves in our body deal with sensation. Most of us base our health on how we feel, which is why I think we have one of the sickest worlds or sickest countries in the world at this point, right? So our job as chiropractors is to find those subtleties, whether they're acute or chronic. Could you get one tripping if we were doing the penguin and you tripped and, rolled in the grass or something and tweaked something? Sure, of course we can do it. Not a problem. That's called an acute subluxation. Most people that I see in my practice have had things that they've accumulated for decades, right? So the spine is so important, to answer your question, is because it is the actual place to interact with the central nervous system that goes to every single cell, tissue, organ in the whole body. So if it's healthy and functioning close to 100% as possible, your life, your health, your humanness, the human experience is going to be closer to 100% too.
What can people do in addition to go to you to get a treatment? What can people do in terms of their day-to-day to better optimize in terms of the physicality?
So, I mean, you and I both know movement is essential. Hence, I'm wearing a shirt that says "Movement for Recovery." And just to show, I'm not an addict, but I resonate with people like you, John. I resonate with people that are out to, like Charlie. That's and I didn't say this when I read it or listened to his audiobook, The Running Man.
Right.
I felt him like, oh, this is crazy. But it was more for me as like listening to a Tony Robbins book. It was more of a self-help book without really being a self-help book.
Yep.
So hold on, point me in the right direction. What direction was I going in?
Oh, no, simply.
What else to do? What else to do? I'm sorry. I got a little excited there for a second. So movement is essential. And there's two terms I want to throw out for everybody that's listening or watching, right? There's something called flexibility and there's something called mobility. Most people think they're the same thing. So I can bend down like I can touch my toes, right? That's called flexibility. So I have flexible muscles. You want muscles to be soft, but you also need them to be strong as well. Mobility is very different. Mobility means joints can move through their full ranges of motion. So if I were to have you say, hey, John, right, we're going to stand up, we're going to do a squat. If you hinge over, 90 degrees at your hips and you're facing the ground when you get to the bottom of the squat, that means your hips and spine and your pelvis, if you will, are not mobile. Okay. And we need to become much more mobile as a society. So I have a patient that's from South Korea and she grew up there and she told me her grandparents, when they would wait for a bus, they would wait. Like, have you ever seen a baby do a squat? Their butt practically touches the ground. Yes. They would, right? That's how they would wait for the bus. That's how in South Korea they would wait for the bus. The 80 and 90-year-olds would sit that way. So I think if you want to do something good for yourself, see if you can sit in a squat for 30 seconds a day. Up to 5 minutes would be like a big monster goal. It's not a lot of time, but I would say everybody that's listening, try it and see how long you can go. And if you're facing the floor with your head and your chest, that means you're not mobile and you need to start working on that. Okay. The second thing is our posture. And one of the worst things, I haven't made a video on social media for this, but I'm going to turn sideways for those that are watching. Yeah, and they will on YouTube. Yes. Right? So those watching, watching on YouTube, you've heard this, John. I know you have by your family or maybe your great grandparents or somebody. bring your shoulders back.
Oh,
have you ever heard anybody say that?
Oh, 100%.
That is the worst advice you could ever give anybody for their posture.
Why?
Our ears should be over our shoulders. If I bring my shoulder back, what do you see?
Well, I don't see your ears over your shoulders.
Exactly. So my ears, now my head is projected forward. Most people are doing that because they're rounded forward. And you're not round. The shoulders are the symptom. They're not the cause of the problem. We live in a world where I'm going to step back so you can see my hands. So we live in an internally rotated world. So when we rotate our shoulders in, we're typing, we're on our phones, doing things, driving a car, picking up our kids, whatever it may be, our shoulders will rotate and they want to move forward.
Right.
So the goal, I'm going to step real far back. You see my hands? Small probably for those. But if I stood relaxed and my hands were facing this, you see the top of my hands?
I do.
That means my shoulders are internally rotated. So I tell people to walk with their hands when you're strolling. Your fingertips should swipe past your pants.
Okay.
So another way to think about this, and you're going to remember this, John, but you told me your age.
Yes.
Remember those black Samsonite briefcases? Plastic ones, right? Right. For those who don't know,
how old are you that you're referencing?
40, 44. 44.
Oh my God, I would have guessed way younger. But anyway, all right. So go back to the Samsonite analogy.
Yeah, right. So the Samsonite. So if you were to grab these handles of this briefcase, but they didn't have a shoulder strap, they were hard plastic. Right. And we had our hands swinging in that forward, they would just swing right past us. They wouldn't touch your legs or your thighs.
Yep.
If our hands are internally rotating, we start swinging, we're going to start smacking ourselves with the briefcase.
Exactly.
So that would be my first thing for everybody to start doing is, like you said, think tall.
Yeah.
Hands, shoulders relaxed. So I tell all my patients, lift your shoulders towards your ears and then drop them. That's where your shoulders should be. And then you focus on your hand position when you're not in front of a computer or on a phone. And when you can do these walks, let your hands just sway, right? So your fingertips are passing. So that's what I would tell people to do. And lifestyle wise, I think most of us know what's better than not.
Right.
And I would say something very simple. Drink a lot of water, at least minimum half your body weight in ounces. That would be my recommendation. We heard something recently in the news, woman drank 3 gallons of water and died. That's not smart. All right. I think maybe during the first penguin, when it was 107 or 111 degrees, I think I drank 3 gallons of water, but I also think I sweat 2.5.
You probably sweated 5 gallons out. So the fact is, right? I mean, you're probably a deficit.
You can. I drink a gallon of water a day.
Yeah, I'm got it.
Right. So, and I'm a very active person with work as a chiropractor, but I also, John and I know, like I run, I lift weight, I do all of these things. So that's one of the most important things. And reduce refined sugar, some simple things. That's how you can stay healthy. If the planet made it, and I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan or an omnivore or carnivore. I'm sorry, I am an omnivore. I'm not a carnivore, vegetarian, or vegan.
I understand what you mean. Yeah.
Right. So I think by making the choices that are healthy for you, stay away from things that they're made in plants, if you get what I mean, but made by the planet.
Yes.
Right. That type of thing. Do your best. I'm not perfect either. If I had pasta, I had this, of course, I'm human, but you want the 90% or 80% to be better than the 20% where you're going to say, you know what? I'm having a chocolate chip cookie. Don't beat yourself up, because then you get them, like we talked about being like during COVID, having like that anger.
Yeah.
My wife tells me and I have to remember this. She says I have food remorse. When I eat certain things, I'm like,
yeah, right. But in your defense, you said something first night, 2023, Havre de Grace. So we're having dinner. I probably have 2 mitts of cookies in my hand or something like that. And you say something, you want to talk about food remorse. You say something, and folks, if you are watching the video version of this, then you can clearly see someone who is in spectacular shape. I'm interviewing.
Appreciate that.
You know what I mean? It's so that it was like, and you said in terms of the training for another event, I was really dialed in to my food. I was real, and I remember those exact words. I was really dialed in or plugged in or whatever, but I think it was dialed in, right? So you had said 2 things in regards to the mobility and or the movement, in regards to the drinking a lot of water, but you absolutely walk the walk, because like I said, again, just looking at you, it's clear. And you're saying that for you, it's more holistic. I'm thinking in the sense of, right. It's funny, man, because that was one of the first things I remembered, and I haven't done it. And it's like selfishly why I'm bringing you on here as well too. But I was going to say that was one of the things from Suzanne Summers. That was all her.
Yeah.
And it's like, as long as it is literally, as I said, if the plan's making it, go have it. That was like, you know what I mean? That was her whole deal. It's like, it's the chemicals. It's the chemicals that are poison, which is why it's easier for me to let go of the anger when I literally have a easy conversation like now, because I think of the logic of the food part. I felt like $1,000,000 when I was following her in regards to what it was. It was just eating real food and nothing else. Yeah. And it wasn't restrictive in any way except for the chemicals. And then you think of the vaccinations and you think of the process, and it's like, I'll leave it with this, which is, you said it in the very beginning, and I love that you did. You also say it in regards to your own documentation, that you never advise anybody to do that or don't do that. Those are the choices that you made. I think it's brilliant, man. And I think one of the gifts that I've gotten in terms of the arc of authenticity is when I have people that just speak, that it's like, I don't have to worry about what it makes me, or that I have to, or agree, or, you know what I mean? That they don't become confrontational. And I think it's one of those things where it's like, you take what you want, leave the rest behind, but follow the source. And like for you, man, it's like I said, it would be hard to refute. There's a photo of you. I can't believe that was really the number of your age. There was a photo of you in the USA Today article, and I swear to God, I looked at the photo. I'm like, God Almighty, Josh looks like he's 15. In that high compliment, a high compliment. It was like, wow.
Appreciate it.
Well, look, I think it's like, so pay attention. So, Josh, I'm really, really grateful that you made the time today, because I just think it's just, you just learn stuff, you know. You get to learn more when you're more authentic, and it's like, and I am wildly grateful for all of this. Look, we've identified the 2 podcasts, we've identified your practice. Where are the best ways to find Dr. Josh Handt that you would prefer us to go?
So my practice website is probably one of the best. So it's newyorkchiropractic.com. Very simple. And it's spelled out at New York Chiropractic.
And you're calling that the simplest, easiest way to get to you.
Exactly.
I got to spell New York Chiropractic. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll find it where we've been around 45 years. So you'll see my mug, if you will, right? You'll see this thing.
Beautiful.
If you want to follow me on social, all my stuff is public. I don't have any private accounts. Like I said, I'm an open book. You like me, you don't. And I think that's okay. I'm, get upset at that. But it's at Dr. Josh Handt on Instagram. And I think I'm on TikTok as well. I think it's the same thing at Dr. Josh Handt. And at Facebook, you just put my name in, you'll find me.
We find you. Those folks, to make it easy, all those links, we will probably have it in the bio and all that stuff as you're watching and listening. So you won't have to guess or wonder. I'll even go to the trouble of spelling New York Chiropractic for you, so that way.
Beautiful.
Maybe I'll copy and paste. I don't know. But lastly, I would say this. It's like, it's just amazing to me. This is where the conduits, like the Charlie Engles, these things where it's I don't know you if it's not for him, and I don't get to realize like the energy, the joy, the humor that permeates from you, the ease, right? And it's like, you bring up tough topics, but you don't hammer them. And to me, that's, I just feel it's like you come from a point of helping people to be more curious. And that, I always believe, leads to a better outcome. Those that are curious, So Dr. Josh Handt. By the way, folks, you don't know that I literally misspelled this poor guy's name, who I've known now for years. So thankfully, we got all that cleaned up before we went live. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm very grateful that you showed up.
John Duffin, brother. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for sharing these messages. I've listened to a few already, and I'm pumped that you're doing this. Keep it going, because you're
100%.
impacting lives you don't even know you're touching. Can I share a quote with you?
Please, yes.
So there's a chiropractic quote. There's a guy named BJ Palmer, who's the developer of our profession. It goes like this. I may butcher it a little bit. It goes, "You never know how far-reaching something you think, say, or do will affect the lives of millions tomorrow." And that's what you're doing right now.
Oh my God, right back at you. Doc, thank you so much for all this. Absolute joy. Be well. Will you come back?
Hey, just got to ask.
Done. Folks, you've just heard another episode of Your Message Received. Again, keep liking, following, subscribing. John Duffin here with Duffin Media. We'll keep driving content right through your front door. Have a great rest of the day, folks. Be well, and we will talk soon. See you. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.